Hello. I'm basically recording this on the same day that I need to turn the volume down. On the same day that I recorded the first volume and the prologue, but I just thought I'd better get volume 2 done so I can upload them tomorrow or something. If I play 2 volumes a day, but like I upload them every day, then I can get everything done before the Pokemon DLC drops, because I'll be quite distracted by that. So let's get started on Volume 2 of Business and Busywork. A theft has occurred in the Northern Wastes. Stolen, a filter of the Vivifier's blood said to have supernatural properties. In charge of the investigation? Yourself. You have your orders, and you have a case to solve. You think you should start close to home. Known quantities. You've got 2 candidates in mind to interview first. You choose. Ripite Colden or Siraj Feltry. Badger talks about, is it Ripite or Ripite? Badger talks about Ripite and Siraj a lot, because AUs and things, and I like to listen, so let's go for Ripite first. Ripite's Coldan. A simple enough start, you feel. You're not one for pulling a metaphorical hamstring, and you still have a day before you'll be heading to the Adolic Acres. Adolic Acres. Can't waste time. It feels good to be hunting for a squeak beast after so long. You really feel your vicious Verminator senses shed turquoise tears of joy. What's a confusing portmanteau? You're not quite sure if the latter half of Verminator's wordology is Terminator or Exterminator. Perhaps you could claim it's a portman trio. Huh. There weren't many particularly interesting details attached to Coldan's name, but regardless, you'll pay him a visit. His ties to Scorp would potentially give him access to deadly secrets. Once you arrive, security is perfectly apathetic and nonchalantly allows you inside once you flash your credentials. You spare half a thought wondering what he thinks you're doing here, but you ignore it in favour of giving Ripite's Trollodex card another glance as you enter the elevator. Nice effects! As luck would have it, when the doors open to a chorus of keyboards clacking like mechanical chirp bugs, your eyes drift from the card to the man himself. You examine him from across the room. He appears to be talking to a co-worker, judging from the frantic motions of his hands. He's explaining something big. This guy has always been one for animated gestures. This isn't the first time you've seen his face, but it's not really much more than the 4th. You never forget a face, but even if you did, his would be off the table. He makes a strong impression, especially in the conference room you first saw him in. He had ideas for Scorp themes, a relatively new concept, especially considering you'd first heard of the app a few days prior. His arms would move about, not unlike a cartoon character. The glow of the projector made his white teeth blinding. His smile almost looked faked from how real it looked. There were themes for each department of the company. You remember rolling your eyes as he started with the accountants, loyal logarithms, or the security guards, ostentatious oculars, serious sass, secretary serenade. He'd mentioned that the one in particular was for the lovely lass at the front desk, who evidently had a habit of doodling hearts onto her work papers when she was bored. When you looked to your left, you saw that exact secretary, face buried in her hands in mild embarrassment. Not exactly a secret with dire consequences, you'd think, but also you didn't care. Perhaps the strongest quality he has is his voice. Deep but not rumbly, like black honey. It demands attention. You could further recall moments spent in the ablution chat with the patent-pending inspo nuggets intermission of the meeting in your mind's radio, but you try not to layer recalls like that. Perhaps you should do your recollection outside of the time doors next time. F. I love love that. With a mental sigh, you open the doors again. I'm still laughing about that. You step out of the elevator and into the office. No time for games. You wait for the first sign of a break in his conversation and approach him. You clear your throat and give him a curt nod as he turns towards you with a look of surprise on his face. How do I do a deep but not rumbly voice? Ripite Koldan, my name is... Oops, didn't see you there. The way he reaches over to shake your hand with both of his catches you off guard. It reminds you uncannily of those old greeting machines used at corporate convenience areas that would come to life at the press of a button. Creepy bastards. Thank goodness they've started using people in costumes for that instead of robots. You appreciate a personal touch. Guilty as charged. Ripite's Koldan, but it looks like you already knew that. Guess my reputation precedes me. He's clearly waiting for something. A laugh, you assume. Unfortunately for him, he flops, as the Chuckle Bunker regulars say. Oh, that's not nice, I laughed. My name is Cecily Yapara, and I'm currently conducting an investigation of grave importance. I'd appreciate any time you have to spare for some questions. You like getting to the point. Oftentimes the point means the point of your blade, and you can never turn down a chance to dance with blades. If only the chances ever came. Ripite's face seems to be somewhat frozen on a smile. He looks confused more than anything. Being questioned isn't exactly a difficult concept to wrap your head around, in your opinion. Wow, you want to talk to me? It's more believable than me asking this of your colleague over here, the one that I'm not presently engaging in conversation. Yes, you. The teal behind him is definitely finding his work very interesting right now. In an instant, his nose is buried in his computer monitor. He's smart, not looking like he's clearly eavesdropping. Still, you'd prefer someplace more private. If you have to spend the conversation counting his nervous tics and fidgets, you'll go mad. Perhaps if we could relocate this somewhere else. I wouldn't wish to disturb anybody's work. I'd hate to make you look bad. Of course! I'm happy to get a move on. It's as I always say, there's a time and a place for all of us, don't you know? You give the worker behind him a curious glance, and his confused expression tells you that he has literally never said that before. Whatever. Your eye has also caught a nameplate next to a door across the office space, and it's a name that was just used in an awful pun by Ismona mere seconds ago. Is your office over there? I'd say that would be a good place. If you wouldn't mind, of course. Not at all, not at all. Come one, come all. It's this way. He's leading you to the clearly labelled room that you pointed out. Your hero. You spend the short trek re-examining the evidence, sifting through your mental documents and familiarising yourself with the important facts. When he lets you in, you're taken aback from how personalised the room looks. It feels like it could only be his, and you barely even know him. Oh my god. I can't... Oh. The socks on. Put your confidence on. Okay. Your mind works fast to find the theme of the miscellaneous junk spread around the room. You see a joke book, a calendar with every day marked, a miniature ray gun model. Arms hoarder? Doesn't seem like the type. That microphone making itself comfortable and desk catches your eye. He records something apparently. Ripite seems just as surprised as you are, and as he rushes to tidy his desk up, you give a whiteboard nearby a glance. Based on the doodled alien head spouting inspirational slogans, someone's got space on the mind. Your least favourite is the three-eyed alien telling you to reach for the stars, a little on the nose. Sorry, so sorry, I forgot I was having a synapse squall in here. Taking a gander at my design work? We're working on a brand new Scorp theme, Celestial Crossroads. Did you know that in From Repeton to a Moon, the author's rough calculations on the requirements for the cannon able to launch 3 people into space were remarkably accurate? Fascinating, isn't it? His cannon still was impractical, but it was quite a commendable attempt. We can talk trivia later. Take a seat, Mr. Koldan. You're not sure why you see Ripite grabbing for his seat, but you can tell he's doing his best to try and lighten the mood. Where do you want me to put? Your cold stare pierces through him like a hot knife through buttery clichés. You're not in the market for a lightened mood. The few inches he'd lifted his seat off the floor are reversed, and he lets out a fake cough before sitting down. God. That's literally what I'd do. God. Right, investigation. I'm not really sure what you need from me, but I'm an open book. But first, I have a question for you, Miss Yapara. For me, you say? I was under the impression that I was questioning you. He nods enthusiastically, and doesn't wait for confirmation before he dives right in. You seem quite tired. Have you had enough soda? I've got a spare cushion lying around if you want to take a snooze cruise. Your business can wait, I'm sure. Self-care first. Is he trying to change the subject? I've had a sufficient amount of sustenance, thank you. I'd really like to have the reins to the conversation again, Mr. Colden. He raises his hands a little bashfully, and though he's smiling, there's a slight sorrow to it, like he knows that was perhaps his last chance for a light-hearted conversation. Oh, I feel bad now. He looks so sad. He's a fucking himbo. I love him. Right, all yours. My hands are off. I'm nudging them in your direction, and please call me Ripite. May I call you Cecily? No. With the investigation properly underway, you retrieve a folder that might help contextualise the situation slightly. For him, you mean? You've already read this document a significant number of times. Once. Recently, in the Northern Waste, there was an armoured truck that was intercepted en route to deliver some very particular goods back to corporate. In particular, a valuable package was stolen. You'll spare the details in case he turns out to be a blabbermouth. He doesn't sound like he was much of a filter, even if you could be wrong. It was an unscheduled transport, so the culprit must have ties to corporate. Do you happen to know anything of this operation before or after the fact? Is there talk of any Arctic antics in your area of the corporate ladder? The look on Ripite's face is one of slight concern, and while you're trying to figure out whether it's genuine worry or just a cover-up, he gives you his response. I can't say I've heard of this, but that certainly sounds kind of dangerous. Is everybody okay? Yes, you almost say in the most disappointed voice you could muster. The armoured truck full of priceless assets was intercepted and nothing happened. They had to pay a fee for crossing the bridge, draw straws to see who'd be stuck being the driver, sing an obnoxious repeating song along the whole trip home. 3 employees died, 2 armed guards and the driver. You start to lose faith in the idea that he'll be any help to you because he's getting teary-eyed about 3 complete and total strangers he didn't know existed until tonight. Oh, that's so sad. Golly, those poor souls. They were only doing their jobs, protecting that truck. That poor driver, trying so hard to drive so far. It didn't even matter in the end, your mind whispers to itself, but you let him grieve for a few more seconds. And that truck, having to endure the harsh cold, I hope its driver loved it and cherished it. And that package, it must feel so scared and lost in the hands of who knows who. Oh, that's so sad. Are you absolutely sure there's nothing you know about this truck, Mr. Colden? I find it difficult to believe that we have 0 ties with this incident. Gosh, I'd love to help. I really, really would. But I don't know what ties I could possibly have. I mean, I wear a tie, if that's any good. I could maybe toss you one as well, if you'd like. I'm positive you'd really pull it off. You're not just unsure if he's the culprit, but you're downright rooting against it. Please, please let there be a better antagonist to chase. You have a way to know for sure, and that method is the rest of this interrogation. There is something I'm looking to tie up, and it's all the loose ends of this case. Yeah, you think, what a badass comeback. Ripite looks positively stunned at your sense of professionalism. Tell me this, why do you think I'm here, questioning someone who seems to know nothing about this case? There must be an obvious connection you have for me to be spending my time here. You don't want him to talk about ties again, because he looks like he's about to invite you to the company clothes shopping field trip as a bonding exercise. Instead, you give a brisk nod of your head to his whiteboard. Consider, you work for Scorp. It's the only relevant chat lines around. Information is your deal, is it not? Especially with a battleground devoid of competitors. I'm going to take a fucking drink. I feel like the more I talk, the more it kind of aggravates my hay fever. Sure is. After all, if you've got information, you've got victory, as a great man once said. That's been my motto for forever. He's looking very confident for a solid 3 seconds before it all crumbles like a house of cards into the endless void of uncertainty. Or was it, you can't spell victory without information? You can't get information without giving victory. That was it, I'm sure of it. Funny you should mention giving victory. I've got some questions to ask you about how this information may have been leaked. I have reason to believe that you and this entire company could be involved, and if you really want to help me out, you'll answer some questions. Though he looks alarmed, either you've made a crack in the case or he's just very paranoid, he doesn't seem to be I cannot speak. He doesn't seem to be panicking. Well, I'd be a bit of a dummy if I didn't try to clear my company's name, wouldn't I? Please, ask me anything. And you're off. Let's question the microphone. You want to dial it back a bit, make sure he doesn't get too overwhelmed. This is only a baseless assumption regardless, but you leave no stone unturned. He likely speaks out about things, and could easily have blabbed about something. You doubt it's here for show and show alone, considering it takes up a fair amount of limited desk space. Leaning over, you gently tap the base of his microphone and raise an eyebrow. Last I checked, Scorp doesn't come with a radio feature. What's this then? I doubt you have an intercom system rigged up either. Before answering, Ripite apparently sees it necessary to grab one of his post-it notes and a pen from his jar of writing utensils. What are you doing? Writing down a note to self. Dear Ripite, consider a radio theme. You have the means, so make some schemes. You really doubt it was necessary to include that last sentence, but okay. He finishes jotting down the idea you'd given him and sticks that on his computer monitor along with other similarly neon-coloured notes. Well, this excellent boy right here is my partner in trying when it comes to my podcast. That's news to you. Seems rather counterproductive to mix work and hobbies, doesn't it? Now, I know you may be wondering why I have my setup here at work. Fear not, there is a perfectly reasonable explanation. If I want to rope a friend in from work as the Weiss's special guest, all I have to do is open the door. Actually, you don't particularly care for the way he's eyeing you like he knows exactly how to ensnare you in a friend trap, nor the way he presses a button on his mic and clicks something on his computer. He says check, beam me up, check, and it sinks in that he's recording. Yippee. The only reason you don't stop him is so that you can get a feel for his narrator style, how casual he is. See if he'd be the type to let secrets slip. Good evening, lady skies, gentle clouds, and every raindrop in between. It's a healthy number of degrees above freezing, and I'm your host, Ripite Coldan. To your surprise, there is a change in demeanour. Yes, he's still smiling far more than anyone else in the room is, but his voice softens somewhat. Unfortunately, it gives you pretty much no new information, so you're stuck listening to an episode of Ripite dialogue for now. We've got a real mind tickler that'll leave your imagination in knots to start off. What has 4 walk limbs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 on corporate paid vacation? I'll let you stew on that, but as always, I should introduce this Weiss's co-pilot, Cecily. Care to give us a good old auto-bio? He beckons you closer with a hand and tilts the microphone towards you. All the memories of 7 Sweep stage fright come flooding back. I'm probably making a shit of this fucking microphone itself. This isn't the same as your phone calls with your future employees, though. This is a jokester with a microphone. I would suggest you turn that microphone off before your radio show takes a turn for the uncooperative. I do not agree to this. We're also not on a first-name basis. Let's get that clear while I'm setting the record straight, Mr. Colden. Thankfully, this doesn't seem to be a live broadcast, since you'd imagine those take a little more setup. You'd hate to embarrass this man in front of an audience. With a nod of understanding, he stops recording, though his keystrokes afterwards concern you. Don't tell me you're actually saving that. Let's just call that a work in progress. Revisit that one some other time. In the meantime, perhaps try saying things with words instead of throwing me into the deep end of the talk show pool. Ripite seems happy enough to plug himself, pulling a rolled up poster out of his desk drawer that has a suspiciously similar composition to one of the science fiction flyers strung up on his wall. He explains it like he's pitching it to an executive, which you find somewhat entertaining. He's just missing the oversized paper that he pulls back to reveal his storyboard and marketing research. Whether or not it's a good day is a podcast I run in my off time. It stars me and my new co-pilot every episode, where we talk about what else in an empty conversation? The weather! Oh! We've got a segment for Neato riddles, we talk about sci-fi, the occasional glad libs, but it's primarily weather talk. I love this guy, he's so cool! The answer to that riddle was a troll, by the by. It was a stretch. At least you could add almost starred on an audio show to your resume. Ironic, the blade wielder hits the cutting room floor. It's the most logical question considering you're dealing with someone somehow knowing something. Like all crimes committed by people who are awake. Scorp is all about information. You intend to find out how your info was passed to an outside party. Scorp just blew up out of nowhere, didn't it? Hadn't heard a thing before it was suddenly swallowing its predecessor with an unhinged jaw. Rushing headfirst into new things seems to be a theme around Scorp. Pouring time and energy into a broken concept? Classic. Textbook, as a matter of fact. I'd imagine you're quite proud of yourself, being so high up the corporate ladder. Last I checked, it ranks number 1 on my list of favourite things. Your eyebrows quirk at such a strange notion. You're apparently capable of keeping up appearances, but number 1? That's impressively highly ranked. If there were a collection of high ranks, that would be the highest. There would be no end to the elevation of that one rank. You're quite fortunate. Not everyone can speak so highly of their jobs. Most people reserve that spot for loved ones or particularly tasty foods. Well, it's tied with my soulmates too, and my friends. Oh, my Lucis too, can't forget him. Also, have you seen the space? That's up there too. Not personally, no. Okay, there are a few ways he could have been involved, being the centre of the information highway, or likely being close to people like Sestro. You could approach this a few ways. Really though, you've wasted enough time and you would really like to hurry this up. I'm going to have to ask you to show me your Scorp logs. As someone so closely involved with the inner workings of Scorp, I have to make sure everybody's clean. You understand, don't you? If you're clean, you have nothing to worry about. The fact that he looks visibly worried almost makes you smile. You're absolutely positive he didn't do the actual deed himself, but it's certainly possible he's had a hand in this. Sure, alright, what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. No secrets between friends. You waste no time in moving behind his desk as he logs back in. At least he isn't putting up a fight, even if you could easily do this yourself by force. You can plainly see his password scribbled on a post-it note stuck to the computer monitor. It's "Let me in." I love this guy. Oh, his Scorp account has a different password, but considering it's 13 characters long, you're willing to bet it's a combination of "Let me in" and Scorp. Yep, that too is on the password note. Alright, here's the old radio station. Have at it. You don't bother to take a seat. You're not going to leave yourself that defenceless. You keep a close eye on him in your peripheral vision, like a paranoid vulture. He could jump any time. He is apparently a big fan of Siraj Feltry because her name and image are plastered all over his Scorp theme. There are also many hearts and lovey-dovey photos of the two together. You kindly refrain from telling him that you're close to throwing up in your mouth just a little bit. You did say your soulmates were ranked at number 1 as well, didn't you? I can certainly see that there's some merit to this claim. Commission this little number from the coding department. Those guys are just on the ball, huh? The ball seems to be rolling through sludge because his system lags like it's diseased. You spend a few minutes snooping around his messages, checking back on your little lead. It doesn't look like he's too concerned. A lot of it is legitimate talk of deadlines and ideas and encouragement. And also him bouncing jokes he clearly got from the internet off on his co-workers. Me. Same. Priority 1. Search his contacts. You don't understand why Scorp doesn't let you see names attached to their troll tags, but you know that Sestro has a very memorable shade of purple. After a brief search, you found the heir's troll tag, but... Do you and Sestro have any chat history at all? There's nothing but an unaccepted friend request here. Aw. I wish. Man, what I wouldn't give to meet and befriend him. I'm sure he gives fantastic handshakes, can you imagine? I can't not respect a guy with such clear visions. It's alright, I'm sure it just got lost in the mail or something. Wow, you're going to move on and try not to snoop too much into the wrong, terribly depressing thing. With a lot of power comes a lot of rationality. That's the saying, right? You keep scrolling through his contacts, but you can't find anybody giving him orders of any kind. At this rate, you guess he couldn't have gotten information from anybody important, because he doesn't know anyone important. Your search ends at the top of his list. When you're about to investigate Sagacious Mediator, he gets a little antsy. They're going to be like sexts or something. This is Siraj, I take it. The one and only, the best and only Siraj there is and ever should be. With a click of a mouse, you're in, and boy do you enjoy the smell of suspicion in the evening. Their latest conversation is particularly interesting. Rise and shine, sweetie, it's almost go time. Meet me in the break room to go over the details. Whatever you say, smoochy smooch, I can't wait to know what you've been dying to tell me. It's a big one, promise, you won't regret this. You don't know how to feel about the fact that Rypipe wasn't the one to say smoochy smooch, but more importantly, timestamps date this conversation less than 24 hours before the crime. Anything to say, Mr. Colden? You expect to grill him insistently over the course of the next few hours, but he looks ready to burst already. Okay, you got me, I'll talk. My grublet and I may have been a little late back from our breaks recently. I've been giving her leaked information. Pep talks. That's your big lead. Rypipe's a cheerleader. He's giving him a headache instead of an L, an E, an A, and a D. Yeah, work's been stressing her out, so we meet up in a secret spot and I give her encouragement. But we only do it during work because that's when she needs it most. You slump back in your seat and try to keep your bitter thoughts to yourself. He's a real piece of work, despite doing nothing noteworthy at all. He's not a piece of work, he's nice, he's a himbo. Am I in trouble? I'll look the other way. At the notion of being let off the hook, he seems to perk right back up like nothing happened. He's leaving that little episode behind, looks like. Let's wrap it up. You're wasting your time, you think to yourself. You've gained nothing from this conversation. He's looking to you, silently asking what the problem seems to be. It's not his business, quite frankly. He's giving you a gentle look, like he's trying to sedate a frightened animal. Are you sure you're doing okay? You don't seem in tip-top shape to me. I'm fine. You've only wasted precious time on a false hope, after all. Rypipe doesn't look convinced. I didn't let you down, did I? Oh, no, you didn't let me down, He's a good boy. I didn't think you'd notice. Ouch. You see him recoil a little, but he manages to fight through it. You appreciate the resilience. You wouldn't want to draw attention to the bawling boss in his office. Sorry, it's just been a rocky start to a very high-stakes investigation. How old are you, if I may? 12. 12 sweeps. I'll assume you're the same? I'm practically twice your age. I wouldn't say I'm qualified to give you advice for management, but I certainly have some life lessons under my belt. Here's one on the house. The first pawn you move can spell your downfall from the very start. It doesn't matter how you play the rest of the game if you begin poorly. The opening gambit sets the scene. You can't rewind that. All you can do is mend the damage before your throat is slit and you bleed to death a regretful husk. Not everyone can move ahead so blindly without thinking like some companies around here. A moment of silence hangs uncomfortably in the air as he tries to figure out what to say. You can see the words buried under his tongue, different ones attempting escape with no luck. You start to pack your papers and stand up, thoroughly spent from a few hours of learning how much of a goofball a boss can really be. I'll be seeing you. Actually, I'm going to need you to wait just a second, miss. Excuse you? As you turn around to follow him, you see him marching over to the door, sliding his wheelie desk chair right in front of the door under the handle. He doesn't even prop the chair up to the doorknob to stop anyone else from coming in, or lock the wheels or anything. You do realise I can easily move that out of the way. I have people to talk to. Or even just sneak past the gap he'd left behind some very light furniture because it's not entirely a snug fit. Not a traditional en passant, but practical all the same. At first he doesn't respond, instead wiping all of his creative mind map from his whiteboard. You have a puzzle to solve, and I've got two thumbs and also a puzzle to solve. I want to help, Cecily. I know we can work together and come up with an answer for these mysteries. I'm a creative director, and a creative director. You wanted me to think, and I really, really want to do something. I don't know how I'd feel if I let you walk out of here without having done anything. That looked somewhat important. You'd written that the deadline is in 2 days. Please tell me you backed that all up somewhere. Nope, that was the only copy that existed, and now it's gone forever. Helping you is more important. Well, now I've negatively impacted your work schedule, I really should be going. Nonsense! We have a crook to catch! And so he gets to scribbling. Scribbling and scrawling and jotting down words and linking them with wavy lines. Oh, he did little drawings there, that's so cute! Let's just mark the keywords. He's underlining every word he writes. You don't figure he's letting you go until he thinks he's helped you. Oh well, you might as well save the measly 2 synapses if it would take to note this down. He at least remembers everything you told him. He's a good listener. All the key notes are present. Unfortunately, he seems to procrastinate not 5 seconds after you mentally compliment him. What's with all these swirly clouds up top? Not an attempt to recreate the scene of the snowy crime, I hope. There's a suspicious amount of delight he shows when you ask. Why, you can't have a synapse squall without clouds? What kind of storm would it even be without clouds? It's as we say, whether or not it's a good day, sometimes you need clouds. There isn't much you can count on, but you can always count on clouds being there, you know? Imagine it raining without knowing when or why. You'd get drenched and given at least 15 different viruses with no warning whatsoever. Your eyes focus on the board for a moment. You hear Ripeye excitedly trying to inspire you, but none of it sticks. You hear everything he says, but it brushes past you like wind in the grass. It's a nice sentiment for sure, but it doesn't give you answers. It's nothing but fluff, surface level boon. Eventually he notices that you're not looking at him and joins you in reviewing the facts. The silence is clearly making him uncomfortable, but that might also be a sudden urge to make it up to you clawing at his psyche. Never mind that he's eating into both his time and yours of his own volition. I appreciate the assistance, for the record. You don't have to be doing this. Now I'm just cutting into your work time. You're allowed to let me handle this. I'm qualified, just off to a rocky start. No investigation is simple from start to finish, not with crimes this drastic. And yet, here you are. You try hard, I'll give you that. Just don't leave your employees hanging for too long. Ah, don't worry about my job, they'll be fine. There's a time and place for all of us, don't you know? You're getting a strong wave of deja vu. This happened like half an hour ago. You don't need to bring this up again. What's next? Recalling every time someone says hello to you? Ripeye goes to scribble more possibilities down. You can't see past his body, so you're left waiting in suspense until he pulls away to present his new theories. No, they weren't frozen to death. It was intentional assassination. The cuts on the bodies prove as much. Plus, they were driving inside a vehicle where it snows considerably less. Phooey! The board squeaks as that notion is erased and replaced with another not 10 seconds later. They didn't turn on each other either. Who would have run off with the vial if all 3 were killed? With another tusk, he's putting one more idea on the line, and that's just the plot of a mystery novel released 4 sweeps ago. Yeah, he's talking about the character arc of one of countless Brendan Fraser roles in the film adaptations. Is he serious? He looks serious. The plot of that book looks even worse scrawled on a whiteboard, but you decide to bite the bullet and pat him on the head. You know what? I'll let you know if we get a ransom note with a man from many skills from inside corporates, I sincerely promise. Haha! I knew it! It's always someone from inside the company. Who else would know what was inside the truck? You're the one who said that, but whatever. You bite your tongue as you drag the impromptu blockade he'd set up out of the way. You're eager to find some new leads, and even if it seems anticlimactic, you need some space. Oh, are we done? But of course, I am an infiltrator with many skills to catch after all. Thanks for your help. You try in earnest not to sound sarcastic, because then you'll probably be subjected to more randomly generated murder mystery plot twists and hurt feelings. It seems to work because Rypite catches and shakes your hand goodbye before you can escape, and tosses you his business card while he's at it. It's good to branch out if you need help. Every branch comes from the same tree after all. Don't forget, I've got your back. You have no idea what the joke he's clearly hinting at is. He's winking and grinning and patting himself on the back for some reason. You thank him politely, yet sternly confirm that you're leaving. You breathe out a sigh of relief when you finally step out of his office. You could do with a trip to the monster boiler yourself, seeing workers buy all that energy drink. But it's time for you to clock out. You've learned virtually nothing, but you suppose you have some new phone numbers for your bank. He apparently wrote down his soulmate's numbers on the back of the card too. In blue pen, his Moirel is described as good at puzzles like this. You start wondering whether or not it's worth it to reach out to another detective before the reason his voice had inflicted strangely earlier dawns on you. I've got your back. You flip the card over to its front again and shove it carelessly in your pocket. You're moving on to a new suspect. Aww. That was nice. I really like Rypite now. He's just a himbo. I love him. He's amazing. So, I guess I'll be doing Siraj next.